Hi there guys, I hope you're all okay. So welcome to another video. Today we're going to be talking about empathy and sympathy. So talking a bit about the difference between the two and how we can strive towards being a bit more empathetic, which I think fits in well with the theme that we have on social media, which is about kindness and gratitude. So by being a bit more empathetic, we can sort of try and understand what other people might be feeling, what they might be going through, and be a bit kinder towards them. And I suppose showing that empathy towards ourselves as well. So let's get stuck in. So what is the difference between the two? So sympathy is when we feel sorry for someone. So we're acknowledging that something has happened to them and we care that that's happened and we feel bad that that's happened. So I guess sympathy in a way can come across as feeling pity for someone or feeling sorry for someone. And then empathy, on the other hand, is sort of that deeper level of where we're trying to understand what that person has gone through. We're trying to put ourselves in their shoes and think, if this was me, how would I feel? How would I be feeling? And I mean, empathy, we don't have to have gone through the same thing as the other person to be able to express empathy. It involves sort of, you know, we can look inwards and think, has there been a time where I felt something similar? So it's almost about being a bit of a detective and recognising an emotion in the other person and thinking, okay, I might not have been through this situation, but when have I felt that feeling? And when we can recognise that, that's when we can have that shared understanding with that person, and it helps them feel understood, and it helps us feel closer to that person. So that's the difference between sympathy and empathy. There are sort of some downsides of sympathy. Like I said, sometimes it can come across as, you know, that we're feeling sorry for someone, or that we're pitying them, and that we're not genuinely trying to actually offer any real support. Even if your intentions are really, really good, when we offer people sympathy, that can often feel quite belittling, and it can lead to feeling sort of disconnected from that other person. So the person on the receiving end will feel like I said, they'll feel like they're being belittled. They'll feel like it's a them and us situation, like they're unlucky and you're lucky. So rather than feeling sort of like, you know, we're in it together, they're going to feel quite separate from you. And a lot of the time as well, like offering that sympathy, when we try and offer sympathy, that's when people can try and give advice where maybe it's not needed. And it can often sort of shut down conversations. So someone might have consoled in you about something, and you sort of shut that conversation down, perhaps unintentionally, saying something like, oh, I'm really sorry that that's happened. And then, you know, we're not opening up a dialogue for conversation. They don't feel heard, and the conversation moves on. So now let's talk about how we can strive for empathy instead. So the first step in offering real empathy is to make sure that we're really listening to what the person has to say. So make sure that you've got the time to really listen to them, and you know, you're in a comfortable space, maybe a private space if the conversation asks for that, and you know, make sure that there are limited distractions where possible, because you really want to make sure that the person that you're talking to feels heard and feels respected. And if you're sat there sort of half listening, scrolling through your phone, they're not going to feel that. So first tip is to make sure that you're really, really listening. Next tip is, where possible, drop the advice. So try not to jump in and give the other person advice, because that's when we're bordering on sympathy rather than empathy. You know, I think sometimes listening can be more helpful and more powerful than trying to jump in and tell the other person what they should do. That might not be what they want to hear. They might just want a place and a space to vent and to talk about what's going on. So bear that in mind, and try to avoid saying, well, if I was you, I'd do this, and when I was in this situation, I did that, because that can come across as unhelpful. If you know the person really well, and you know they might ask you for advice and ask you for your opinion, then that's fine if they're asking for it, but try to avoid giving that advice unless they've asked. So the next step is to recognise and to allow emotions. So we're going to try our best to not shut down the conversation, we're going to listen without any judgment, and we're going to let them talk freely about what they want to talk about. So try your best, you know, not to, you know, sit there and tell them to not cry, or tell them to calm down. You know, if they're sad, if they're angry, then let those feelings out. You know, sometimes I think we can all be guilty of wanting the other person to feel better and say things like, oh, you know, try not to get upset. But you know, if they feel like crying, then that's valid. So we should let them do that. So yeah, that's the next tip. So allow them to express any and all of the emotions they might be feeling. Another thing that you can do that might be helpful is to try and ask open questions. So these are questions where it will prompt the other person to open up more. So questions that don't necessarily have one-word answers or yes/no answers. So open questions like, how did that make you feel? Or tell me a bit more about this. You know, keeping it nice and open, and asking questions as well will make them feel like you're listening and make them feel heard, especially if those questions relate back to things that they've said. So yeah, a great way of opening up dialogue and also helping them feel listened to. And the final little tip is to be fully present and fully authentic with whoever you're speaking to. So like I said in the beginning, sort of make sure that we're giving them our full attention and being fully present, being fully grounded in this moment with them. And when I say be authentic, I mean, you know, empathy is not about trying to impress the person that we know exactly how they're feeling. It's about us trying to put ourselves in their shoes. So we might get it wrong, and that's okay. And there might be times we don't know what to say, and that's fine too. You know, rather than saying the wrong thing or trying to give advice, you can just communicate that. You can say, I really just don't know what to say, but I'm here for you, and that can be enough. Because yeah, that person will feel listened to and heard, and will feel like you're trying, and that's all we can hope for, isn't it? You're trying to understand and trying to be there for them, and that is enough. There we go, that brings us to the end of this video. I hope you found that useful and that you've learnt a bit about empathy and sympathy and the difference between the two, and how we can be a bit more empathetic towards other people. So yeah, keep an eye out for our videos next week, which will be on the theme of anger and stress, something I'm sure that we can all relate to. As well, a week tomorrow, October the 10th, it is World Mental Health Day. Keep an eye out for lots of videos from all of the lovely team at Yes. Everyone's been working really hard on making these videos. So yeah, they will be on our Facebook page all day on the Saturday, like a little mental health virtual festival almost. So definitely make sure you like our Facebook page just to make sure you keep up to date with everything going on. But yeah, enough waffling. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Bye.